part-time, but full-time, yeah, not very long.
How long out of school was it, Carolyn, that you were working there?
I finished school on Friday and I started at Sportsnet on the Monday, but that was doing part-time sports updates for City News Channel from Sportsnet.
So Fanshawe came and got you, or they came to get you from Fanshawe before you left?
No, I finished on Friday and then, I moved to Toronto.
Oh.
Yeah.
You kind of.
Is that me or is that just?
Yeah, we you just cut out there. We didn't hear the end of your whole statement there.
AirPods?
We still can't hear you. I don't know. Okay, Cybul, keep going. So anyway.
Okay, so yeah, I'll take it from here, Carolyn. No, but what happened was they were looking for a co-host for me. I was doing Sportsnet Pacific, but they also wanted to do kind of a national morning show. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted, kind of a female co-host, and they had a couple of different names in mind, and they tried one individual. They had brought her out to Vancouver, and it didn't really click in the eyes of management.
Chemistry-wise?
Yeah, they're just, I just don't think I'm above my head. It's over my head decision. So they just, I think they wanted to try somebody else. So they flew me into Toronto one weekend and said, we have somebody we really want to try you with, like checks the boxes and really excited. And so, I flew in, and while I was writing the script for kind of do a mock show, essentially, there's Carolyn getting ready to anchor that night, and we're sitting next to each other. And we're just kind of making small talk. And the first time we'd really, I had seen her on camera a few times from the other side of the country, and I think she was probably mildly familiar with some of my work in the past too. So we were just kind of making small talk, and and it's funny because the audition, the mock show that I did was, it didn't click. It wasn't a good fit. And so I remember the next morning, the vice president calling me, and we're kind of debriefing about the audition, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a no-go." And it's like, "Well, now what?" And it's like, "Well, I don't know." And I remember mentioning, I said, "Well, what about Carolyn? It seems like she's pretty good." And I don't know.
We're desperate.
Yeah. And clearly, an indictment of just the lack of talent at Sportsnet at the time. And
yeah, we'll take anybody at this point.
Well, what was interesting from my perspective, I was just filling in for Martine Geyer's mat leave. So I'd only probably done, if I had to guess, maybe 10 shows anchoring, and I had just been told maybe a month prior that they still saw me as a reporter, not an anchor. Mm-hmm. And then again, fast forward a month, and I was being flown out to Vancouver to see how I got along with Cybul.
Well, subconsciously you kind of know watching somebody on TV right away if you're gonna like who they are, just kind of chemistry wise. You did Fanshawe, you did TV, right? Broadcasting?
So it was joint with Western. So it was radio broadcast was what I did at Fanshawe. Yeah, so the on-air stuff was Rogers TV.
You at least got to hang out with Jimmy Van Horn for a little bit, though.
That's right. Not the Jim Van Horn from TSN, the London, Ontario Jim Van Horn.
Yes. So, I was at
community television too, Cameron?
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that.
Cybul really checked my resume before I started working with him.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, London, Rogers TV, London. Jen Hetcher did it too. Different versions, but
it's funny. I don't know how much of a breeding ground it is to this day. Obviously, I haven't been in a community television station in a while, but that was where I got my reps too. And for the longest time, when I spoke to students, I said, it's like going to school for free. You get your reps. It was a tremendous learning experience. Tom Green was doing the Tom Green show at the same time when I was in Ottawa doing, I called karate tournaments. I called 8 hours of ringette one day. It was all that stuff. The same thing that you did, Cameron.
Wasn't that Cybul where you tried to put makeup on for the first time and you used blush instead of powder?
You remember that story? True story. I just all the pros, and it's in Ottawa breaking into the business. Mm-hmm. The one guy who was and I say this in all sincerity, he was the Ron Burgundy of Ottawa sports, was a guy named Brian Smith, and kind of just an institution. And, you know, watching Brian, like, he just had a presence about him. And, you know, you'd see him pull out a compact and, you know, kind of dust himself off before he'd do his stand-up. And, you know, Dan Sagan at CBC, the same thing. And, you know, all these, you know, Duthie for that matter, right? Like James Duthie was working at CJOH at the same time. And
tons of makeup.
Lots of it. I mean, still to this day.
Unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You gotta, like,
He just has a
peel it
bag
off.
over his head. And so I thought, you know what? And I'm still living at home. I think I'm like 20 at the time. And went to my mom's kind of makeup drawer and just grabbed a compact and thought, well, this is how the pros do it. I'll just, you know, throw some on and, you know, throw some on in the green room before we go to tape this studio show one day. And the floor director, she comes up to me and she's, you know, and the camera guy's like, man, your face is really flush. Are you okay? Are you hot? I'm like, no. I said, I put some powder on and just put some makeup on. And they're like, oh, let me take a look. And I kind of hand them over the compact and the girl just like, this is blush. And like the whole room just fucking howled.
Meanwhile, you're sitting there like, I don't get it. What does that mean?
Well, I you know what? I got it when they said blush, and it was like, this is not good.
The only thing that I ever learned is because I have black marks under my eyes, so I always had to get concealer. So whenever you do, you use your ring finger because it's the least strong. So whenever you're doing your little patting, it doesn't push your skin around to stretch your skin out.
Nice
yeah,
touch.
that's what they always say. You dab it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's a sensitive part of your skin.
Let me write this down.
Rogers TV had enough money to bring in someone to do my hair and to bring me a coffee in the morning, but I had to do my own makeup, so it sucked.
What did you do?
And now you cut your own hair.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you do?
We literally all have the same. Like, I went to Fanshawe for radio, and FM 96 came and found me before I graduated. So then, after I graduated, I started the promotions department. And then pitched a show, like a midnight to 3 a.m. show with my buddy and Greg Harrell, who's now on The Edge. And they liked it. And so we started doing that. And one of the cruiser girls was doing a Rogers TV show at the time. And she just kind of came in to be like, oh, my partner's leaving. I'm like, oh, I'll do it with you. So that show turned into 3 more shows. And then I had the exact same thing as Carolyn, is when daytime, I don't know if you guys remember your Rogers daytime, but yeah.
Yep.
So I was 25 years old, and they're like, hey, you might as well come in and audition for daytime. So it was like me and Jeff and like 2 other like 45-year-old guys. I'm 25 at the time. And then sure enough, when I left, they're like, yeah, we're going to give you the job. The chemistry between you and Steph was the best. I'm like, okay, sure. So then I started doing that fucking show every day. And yeah.
Daytime, which was a tremendous, like that show was on all the time, right?
Oh, every day.
That's a live morning show.
Yeah, it was Regis and Kelly, but for the small markets. I loved it, man. But again, you get to cut your teeth and understand how to get an earpiece in and do the producer talk and slow yourself down and make sure you're delivering.
Makeup.
Oh, fuck, yeah, so much makeup. So, what do you guys like better, TV or radio?
Do you want me to go first, Seaball? I like TV just because there's more. I personally feel, for me, there's more things I need to think about in the moment. It's shorter increments of time. So in a way it's difficult, but in a way that is easier than radio. Like Seaball's trying to fill a few hours, especially right now, a few hours of air when there's no sports going on. So that's really tough. I think I like TV because I've just done more of TV too. So that's probably the safe answer for me. I'd be interested to know, Seaball, your answer, since you've done so much of both.
It depends. Like, it's funny. I guess the stock or politically correct answer would be it depends. Like, both can be really fun and really rewarding. I think TV can be more fun at times because you can play. There's more. Yeah. There's a not to say that you're skimming a rinky dinky dink or anything like that, but there can be a physical element of interacting.
Yeah, creatively. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can let pictures, you can let writing and your words help paint the picture. There's a visual and there's an audio component together.
So it's easier.
There's a simplicity to television. I think where television kind of sometimes frustrates me is it becomes so formulaic and you don't have enough time to get you're going to want to expand your thought. Mm-hmm. Where radio, I find I've probably banged my head against the wall more times in radio, trying to pull off a good show, but I felt more rewarded for something that is, you're speaking more passionately. You have a little more time to kind of dive into something.
Yeah.
If you're interested in something, you really have a chance to kind of massage the issue a little more.
Well, don't forget that you're also you're in a very unique radio position, because my background is rock radio. So you get enough time to say this is, here's the weather coming up, and off you go. At least you get to kind of have an opinion.
But at times, I mean, there's also, it's funny with time, with breaks, like, you have 60 minutes in an hour, and then all of a sudden you take away, like for us, I think we take away 16 minutes in commercials alone.
Yep.
So now you're down to a 44-minute hour.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron, I'm sure you probably find the same thing on even live events. Like I love doing live events in television.
That's
that
my
was
favorite.
one thing.
Yeah.
And that's the best. I mean, I think when you do a highlight show, and I mean, I did it for years, and I certainly, I loved my time with Cameron and all that, but, to have that, do something live, I mean, nothing beats doing something live. I think but even when you're doing, in an intermission, sometimes, like, you're up against the clock. Like, you might have 17 minutes in an intermission between periods, but Cameron, like, you're maybe on it for 5 minutes?
Well, and because you have so much less time, then you put a little bit more pressure, as you really have to be careful in terms of how you even use your time and your words.
Alan Cross.
You don't want to waste even you don't want to waste 20 seconds even as a host getting it to an analyst, and then they can't talk for as long. But again, that's what makes it fun. And it's the same with whether it's rinkside interviews, especially because there's the crowd, or it can be noisy. It just adds a little bit of pressure and more of a bit of a rush. So I definitely get a rush and get more nervous when it's a live event. It's so fun. You're in it. And for people who love sports, for live events for sports, that's it. You're there. You're at the arena. You're on the court. Yeah,
it's funny because I don't really think I don't think people watching at home kind of realize how nervous people are when they get in front of a camera and they're doing it. Like, it's interesting to me when people are just, I'm like, surprised you guys can do that. And meanwhile, sometimes in your own head, you're like, oh shit, like, what am I gonna do here? Like, this is, and then they're like, and 3, 2, like, and we're back. Hey, like,
have you had a moment?
Oh, I get nervous. I get nervous a lot. Have I had a moment where I just black out and kind of forget what I'm gonna say? Yeah, nothing's been actually overly embarrassing on air. Are you going to tell your Bruce Willis story?
I mean, that wasn't even so much a blackout. That was just, heart pounding, ready, excited, the noise, and then just kind of blurred out, like, courtside interview with Bruce Willis. I mean, this is 2007 NBA playoffs.
Yeah,
I'd gone up to Bruce, like, I think it's, I think at the end of the first quarter, hey, man, big fan, love your work. And, thanks. Listen, I'm a reporter from Canada, or, we're doing the game across the country. Could we maybe get a quick interview? Yeah, absolutely. How about I come back right at the end of halftime, start of the third quarter? Sure, no problem. Oh, thanks, man. I'm just like, man, this is Bruce Willis. This is so cool. And so I come back in the third quarter, and he's just like, now he's like, what are we talking about here? I'm not really much of a basketball fan. And, I'm like, well, whatever, man. You're Bruce Willis. We're just going to do it. Whatever the case, man, Chuck Swirsky threw to me, and I just right away. And, of course, like, even the best part is, like, one of the most recognizable faces on this silver screen, Bruce Wilson, like, pump him up like everybody knows Joe Blow, and it's totally boot the fucker's name, and became infamous in
Bruce Wilson, right? You said?
Yeah, Bruce Wilson.
Gene Cybulski standing by with a very special guest.
Absolutely, one of the most recognizable faces on the silver screen, Bruce Wilson. You're with one of your good buddies.
Yeah, my buddy Mike Carrion. Big star in his own right, big Nets fan. What do you think about the game tonight?
We couldn't be playing better. We're killing them in every angle.
And right in the camera. Jason Kidd, what? On fire?
Well, I don't know what they can do to stop him.
They can't stop him. They're scared to death.
Triple-double every night. I don't know what they can do.
Now, right? Just go home now, right?
They may as well just stop playing Game 5. They're done. Rest
up.
May the the TV chemistry is almost like you and Sybil being back together again.
No. This kid's a lot. This kid's a lot. He's got a lot going for himself. Sybil Shepherd, I think, may be retired right now. Mike was on his way. Like the carriage out, ladies and gentlemen, here at the home of the Nets. Come on.
Hey, Bruce, we're 2 months away from the release of your latest Die Hard installment.
Unbelievable. I just saw it last week. Better than the first movie. I personally think. Better than the first movie.
Well, then, yippee-ki-yay. Thanks for...
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Well, we apologize for the...
And totally blurred, like, you know, silver screen, Bruce Wilson. And I didn't realize I said it. I like, part of me thought, when people called me out on it, like a day later, like, I can't believe you called him Bruce Wilson. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no way I would have made that mistake. And then when I watched it back, like, oh, I got a knot in my stomach, and I just felt awful. I think I remember Elliot Friedman messaging me like with a big LOL, and just buddies chirping me all over. And it kind of, the funny thing is, people that knew me chirped me mercilessly about it. It took me about 12 hours to laugh at myself about it. I felt terrible at first and really embarrassed. And then 12 hours later, I kind of laughed it off and have lived in infamy ever since. But the way the interview ended was Willis, basically, I kind of teed him up with that, well, yippee-ki-yay to that, and, yippee-ki-yay, mother. And on live television. And that's what kind of stood out, where it was like, oh, this, Bruce Willis drops an F-bomb on live television. And Howard Stern ran that for years. But never the part of me screwing up. Just more the
The thing with screwing up too in nerves is I'll get nervous before these events, and then once you start, you're usually fine.
Agreed.
And I think it was also at the stage of my career when I worked with Seaball, and just learning from him is you learn quickly. Say you're gonna screw up multiple times in live television because it's bound to happen. But it's how you recover from those screw ups. And it helps that I'm self-deprecating and you are too, Seaball. So that kind of helps. That's an easy way to make up for your mistakes. But I also found I've learned to have a short memory, because if you screw up at the beginning of a show, and it's like anyone in their job, if you focus on that and dwell on that and feel sorry for yourself, then you'll probably screw up multiple times for the rest of the show. So you kind of just have to take it, eat it, and then move on.
Don't dwell on it, right? Like that's the one thing. I mean, that the brilliance of Carolyn, and it's funny because we were joking about this, all this time later, but I had this insecurity working with Carolyn because I think there's about 15 years between the two of us, but she's so mature, way more mature than me.
Yeah,
and
that's obvious.
Yeah, but I mean that's because you're 15 years older than me. So like,
I was waiting for that.
But it's funny because I was like, oh my god, like kind of had that first wave in my mind, like, oh my god, I'm getting old in this business. Like, can I do this? And she just the brilliance, I think, of Carolyn here, and why you watched her just absolute meteoric rise in the television industry in the last half dozen years is she puts herself in a position to succeed always, whether it's her writing, whether it's her personality. You're good, Cece. And that was the fun thing about going to work with Carolyn. Like, honestly, it was so easy. Like, it was like, I think it was a weird situation that we had with our show. And I don't know, I don't think I'm not afraid to say, and I think people, who worked with us as well, like, I don't think we were necessarily in the best position to succeed at the time that the industry landscape was changing. And we knew that, the show, a morning show in Vancouver, it just didn't make a whole lot of, business sense at the time. But man, we had a lot of fun. Like, we made the most of.
Oh yeah. But we had a blast. But yeah, I think one of our former coworkers, she named just our tiny little newsroom, which was really, like, over the 2 years that I was there, was really just 4 of us permanently. And then you kind of have a couple guys come in and we'll do the teleprompter. So she named us just the Island of Misfit Toys. Yeah. Which you would sometimes think is an insult. And we all thought, no, that's us. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Can we just also point out, like, beyond just industry talk, can we not, like, a tip of the cap to the underground. That
I
place
know.
that we all
I was
spend
wearing it.
time on.
Steve introduced me to you, Noel.